All right, here's what you got going on. Thursday kicks off week 2 of the preseason, and that offers the Seahawks and Bears. And how about Friday's slate? You see it right there. Panthers, Patriots. There's a quarterback battle with the Panthers, Saints, Packers, and, of course, the Texans and Rams. Let's take a look at some of those matchups and storylines and welcome in CBS Sports NFL writer Tyler Sullivan. And, Tyler, so far the Bears and Seahawks, that offers a game that certainly has a spotlight on the QB position. Chicago, a second-year signal caller who has the job, while Seattle has a quarterback battle to replace Russell Wilson. What are you watching for in this kickoff?
Yeah, it's right there. It's that Seattle quarterback competition. What's going to happen between Drew Lock and Geno Smith? There's already news out of Seattle today that Drew Lock has been working with the first-team offense. That's something that hasn't happened before. So, again, little interesting as we go into this preseason game on Thursday. I would anticipate seeing Drew Lock start this game. I think that Pete Carroll really wants to get a good look at both of these quarterbacks. Geno Smith got the start in the opener, played well, kind of got off to a little bit of a slow start, but was able to pick things up in that final 2-minute drill to put points on the board, rushing for a touchdown before halftime. Drew Lock came in the second half, and granted, you're playing in the second half of a preseason game. Half these guys are probably going to be working at a construction site in about a month, but still, he played well, was able to lead them on a touchdown drive through for 2 touchdowns in that second half. He did have that strip sack fumble that opened the door for Kenny Pickett to throw that game-winning touchdown. But overall, I thought he played well. I thought he actually played better than Geno Smith. So I think that, again, it's going to be expected. This quarterback situation for the Week 1 starters is not hammered out. It's not like what I believe to be the case in Carolina, say, where Baker Mayfield, in my opinion, has the Week 1 job really hammered out, unlike even if Matt Rule doesn't want to say it. I actually think that this is a legitimate competition in Seattle. And so, again, it's interesting to see Drew Lock get the number 1s today, and we'll see what happens in week 2 of the preseason. And so for me, that's what we're looking at the most in this game.
Yeah, Sherry, nothing wrong with a construction job, right?
Not in the slightest. And the
Son of a plumber, so it's all set.
The quarterback carousel just continuing to ride, too. Chicago, in that first game, they put up 19. Seattle scoring 25 in their Week 1 preseason game. As you said, there's going to be some new guys in there, particularly the quarterback. So take that with a grain of salt, but that total did go over the number odds makers picked for this game. Seattle is a 5.5-point favorite. How are you approaching your pick in this one?
Yeah, I'm going to lay the points and go with Seattle. And a lot of these times with these preseason games, I look at motivation. It's like, what are these teams, what are these players really trying to accomplish in this game? And I don't know if Chicago is really going to go out. We're still trying to figure out how this 3-game preseason is going to work. We're only in year 2 of this thing. It's not like in years past when it was 4 games. You were like, okay, the 3rd game's the dress rehearsal, so the 4th game's no one's really playing. That 2nd game, you might not get a ton of the starters playing time. We're still trying to feel out when these teams are going to play these starters. And for Chicago, I'm not so sure we're going to see a lot of Justin Fields. He basically played all of the first quarter in the opener. He was sacked twice. So maybe you'll want to get him a series or 2, but I think that's about the max you're going to see. I think the quote-unquote dress rehearsal for Chicago is going to be in week 3 before the season, before that little break before week 1. As opposed to Seattle, like I said, there's still a quarterback battle going about. They're still trying to figure out whether it's going to be Geno Smith or Drew Lock, and I think it's going to be very similar to what you saw in the opener, where one quarterback's going to get the first half, the other quarterback's going to get the second half. And so when you're talking about Geno Smith and Drew Lock versus probably a series of Justin Fields, but primarily Trevor Siemian and Nathan Peterman, I'm going to side with the quarterbacks in Seattle as opposed to what we see in Chicago.
Yeah, and each of those quarterbacks did some good things in that first preseason game. We mentioned Friday's slate. We mentioned the Thursday kickoff. But what about the whole week 2 in general, Tyler? What are 3 things that should have our attention regarding preseason week 2?
I'll give you 2 quarterbacks in a team, and specifically a head coach. But let's go with the quarterbacks first and go in Cleveland. Jacoby Brissett, he's one quarterback we have not seen yet in the preseason. Obviously, all eyes were on Deshaun Watson in Cleveland's preseason opener. Played, underwhelmingly, but I don't think he's going to see as much time, or at least get the start in the Browns game this week. I think that's going to go to Jacoby Brissett, who is now starting to work more with that first-team offense. And again, rightfully so. We all know that Deshaun Watson is going to face some sort of punishment. Obviously, the NFL is appealing pushing for a season-long suspension. But regardless if that appeal is upheld and they actually get what they want, he's going to miss time. He's already suspended first 6 weeks of the season, so he's going to see some time. And Jacoby Brissett's going to be the starter in this Browns offense. So for me, I'm curious to see how he's working with the first team offense. How many reps is he going to get in this game? Because this is going to be make or break in terms of Cleveland being a competitive football team this season, whether Deshaun Watson's out 6 games or he's out for an entire season. The other quarterback I'm looking at is Jordan Love of the Green Bay Packers. He's playing on Friday night, and I think that he was an up and down performance. Obviously, he had 2 touchdowns that were nice, but had 3 interceptions in that game against the 49ers. And more than anybody in the league that's really, outside of quarterbacks that are battling for an actual starting job in 2022, the preseason is just so important for Jordan Love to put good film on tape, for other teams to look at him and say, hey, he might be an option if our guy goes down or if we're not satisfied with our quarterback situation. He's a guy that maybe we can inquire Green Bay and obviously acquire. Outside of an injury to Aaron Rodgers or a freak retirement somewhere down the future, he's not going to play a meaningful snap with the Green Bay Packers. That has already been solidified with the contract that Rodgers signed this offseason. And so Love, he's going to have to make that next step somewhere else in the NFL, in my opinion. And these preseason reps are not only important for him to kind of still stay fresh, but show other teams that he's a legitimate first-round talent. And finally, I'm looking at the Jacksonville Jaguars, specifically Doug Peterson. They're 0-2 in the preseason, but we all know the record doesn't matter at all in the preseason. The Jaguars have actually looked like a legitimate professional football team under Doug Peterson as opposed to Urban Meyer. So for me, again, he's someone who I'm paying a ton of attention to if they just continue to look like a legitimate, competent football team. He's 20-1 to win Coach of the Year right now, which I think is tremendously low. When voters are looking at the Jaguars this season, it's going to be night and day. They're going to see a better Trevor Lawrence. They're going to see a more well-run football team. If they come anywhere close to an above 500 record and start sniffing the playoffs, and Trevor Lawrence is legitimately that number 1 quarterback that, you put him in the same breath as Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, and John Elway when they were going into their second years, he's going to get plenty of votes for Coach of the Year at 20-1. That's tremendous odds to get at this time of the year.
Yeah, he's got to flush that first season right down the drain, right?
Only up in Jacksonville, particularly after what they did last season.
No
Absolutely.
doubt. All right, thanks to Tyler Sullivan. Good stuff in terms of what we should be looking for week 2. Yeah, Jacoby Brissett, he's got to get those reps. He's got the one job now for the foreseeable future in Cleveland. Jordan Love, 3 picks in that first game versus 2 touchdown passes. Got to show some good tape. If it's not for the Packers, perhaps for another team down the road. And yes, the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Steelers with Doug Peterson at the helm. Trevor Lawrence showed some good things in that first preseason kickoff.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.